My dear sister, my dear brother, you keep saying it was a breakup. But what if I told you it was actually a mercy you haven't recognized yet? What if Allah closed that door because the next one opens to something far, far better? Sometimes what leaves your life was never part of your Jannah in the first place. Allah took them to return you to Him. My beloved brother, my precious sister, you've been hurting quietly, privately. Maybe no one even knows the tears you've been holding in. You smile in front of others, but behind closed doors, your heart feels shattered. You're trying to make sense of what happened. You keep replaying it in your mind, don't you? Why did it end like this? Why did Allah let them walk away after everything? Wasn't this love? Wasn't this my future? But what if I told you something that changes everything? What if I told you this wasn't a punishment? It wasn't a curse. It wasn't your failure. It wasn't Allah turning away from you. It was a rescue. Yes, a rescue from your Lord, from the one who knows what your eyes can't see and what your heart doesn't yet understand. You thought it was just a breakup, but in the unseen world, it was your soul being pulled away from a path that would have drained you, a path that may have felt warm, but was slowly dimming your light. Because sometimes we hold on to people who are not meant to be part of the future. Allah is preparing for us, and we can't see that. We just see the affection, the shared memories, the plans, the dreams. But Allah sees the truth behind every smile. He hears the words that were said behind your back. He knows the distractions that were beginning to pull your heart away from Him. And out of love for you, He didn't let it continue. You cried over someone walking away. But the reality is, they weren't walking. They were being removed. Yes, it hurts. But just like a surgeon cuts to heal, Allah sometimes breaks your heart only to save your soul. And I know right now it feels like a storm, like everything collapsed. You keep asking, why me? But let me gently remind you, when Allah loves someone, He protects them even from the things they think are good. You see, sometimes we fall so deeply for a person that we begin to forget our purpose. We start making them our source of happiness. We check our phones more than we check our hearts. We pray less. We think less of where we're going in the akhirah. And suddenly, without realizing it, we start depending on a human soul more than the one who created both of yours. And that's dangerous. Because anything you place above Allah becomes a test, becomes a weight, and slowly it begins to damage your peace. So Allah, in His mercy, removes what's standing in the way, even if it's someone you thought you couldn't live without. And that's what happened. You thought you lost someone, but really you were being saved from losing yourself. Because they weren't just taking your time, they were taking your focus. They weren't just present in your life, they were replacing the space that belonged to your Rabb. And Allah knew if He let you keep going, you would have gone too far. So what did He do? He stepped in quietly, painfully, but mercifully. He took them, not because He hates you, but because He loves you more than you could ever imagine. Perhaps you dislike something while it is good for you. Quran 2:216. That's not just a verse. That's your story. You disliked the separation, but it was good for your future, good for your soul, good for your akhirah. You thought they completed you, but the truth is, they were slowly emptying you. And when Allah removes someone like that, He's not just taking away, He's making room for your sujood to feel sweet again. Room for your heart to rest in dhikr instead of overthinking. Room for peace that doesn't depend on anyone's attention. Maybe you don't realize this yet, but the version of you that's rising now the one who prays more sincerely, the one who cries to Allah with real words, the one who's learning to walk alone. That version is stronger, wiser, more beautiful in the sight of your Lord. And trust me, one day not far from now, you will look back on this exact pain, this very heartbreak, and whisper with tears, Ya Allah, thank you for taking them away, even when I was still begging you to let them stay. Because now you'll know what you thought was the end was actually the beginning. What you thought was rejection was protection. And what you thought was heartbreak was actually your rescue. You didn't lose. You were redirected. You were saved. You were loved in the most sacred way. And one day, you'll realize that this wasn't a breakup. It was the moment Allah brought you back home to Him. The separation was protection, not rejection. You felt it, didn't you? That moment when they started slipping away, when their replies became shorter, their presence became colder, and their heart started turning into a stranger. You saw it happening, and still you tried to hold on. You tried to explain yourself again and again. You tried to pray harder. You thought maybe if you gave more, they would stay. But the truth is, no matter how tightly you held on, you couldn't stop what Allah had already written to leave. They didn't just walk away. They were removed by a Lord who loves you too much to let you stay tied to something that was slowly breaking your soul. You saw it as rejection, but He saw it as protection. Because sometimes what you want the most is the very thing that will take you the farthest from who you're meant to become. You looked at them and saw a future, but Allah looked deeper and saw how they would have buried your potential, delayed your purpose, and distracted you from the real mission of your life, to return to Him with a clean heart. Yes, it felt like you weren't enough for them, but the reality is they were never enough for the version of you Allah is building. They left because they couldn't walk with the you that's rising, the you that's praying again, the you that's waking up for tahajjud with a cracked heart and a sincere tongue, the you that's no longer begging for attention, but begging for peace. You wanted it to last. You made dua for them. You asked Allah to keep them. But when He didn't, you felt abandoned. Let me tell you something. Allah heard every word. He counted every tear, and still He chose to let them go. Not because He ignored your pain, but because He saw what you couldn't. He saw what was being planned behind your back. He saw the shift in their heart when you weren't around. He saw the way they treated your soul carelessly. And out of mercy, He stepped in. They were standing between you and your growth, between you and your healing, between you and the clarity you've been asking for in secret. You couldn't see it, but they were holding you back. And sometimes growth requires subtraction. You didn't fail. You didn't do too little. You weren't too much. You weren't impossible to love. You were protected. Protected from becoming someone who forgets Allah. Protected from a future that was built on temporary comfort. Protected from a bond that looked beautiful on the outside, but was hollow on the inside. You may have loved them deeply, but Allah loves you more. So He removed them even when you were still asking for them. And if you're wondering why He didn't answer your dua to keep them, maybe He was answering your older dua, the one you made in tears. Ya Allah, give me what's best for my deen, my dunya, and my akhirah. That's the dua He honored. And maybe, just maybe, you didn't lose anything. You were spared. You were rescued. You were hidden again until someone deserving is written. Don't confuse their absence with Allah's silence. Don't confuse their rejection with your worth. They left because Allah cleared the path for something deeper, something safer, something that won't pull you away from Him, but push you toward Him. This is not a punishment. It's a rerouting. It's a wrapped in mercy. It's a blessing dressed like heartbreak. You will heal. You will smile again. Not because someone returns, but because you finally understand why they had to go. There is no rejection in what Allah removes. Only redirection. Only love in its highest, most sacred form. The people who are written for your peace will not disturb your soul. The people who are meant for your path will never push you away from your wrap. Let that be your sign. Let that be your measure. And when you feel the ache of missing them, turn to the one who never left. Because it is in his company that your wounds will finally close. Maybe you didn't get closure from them. But this is your closure. This is your peace. They were never rejecting you. They were leaving you so Allah could protect you. And that is the most loving thing your Lord could ever do. Before Allah elevates you, He separates you. You're wondering why it ended, why they walked away, why it all fell apart when you were just beginning to dream. You sit in silence now. And sometimes that silence is louder than any noise you've ever heard. You feel abandoned, empty, cut off from the world. And even though people are around, it still feels like no one is really with you. But I want to gently tell you something tonight. Something your heart might have forgotten while it was breaking. Before Allah elevates you, He separates you. Before He blesses your soul with something greater, He creates distance from everything that isn't meant to go with you. Even the Prophet ﷺ, before the Quran descended, before Jibreel A.S. appeared, before he was called Rasulullah, he was alone in the cave of Hira, isolated, separated, not because he was forgotten, but because he was being prepared. You see, isolation is not abandonment. It's purification. It's where Allah begins to clean the heart, clear the distractions, and prepare you for something you would never expect. Sometimes, what looks like a breakdown is actually your breakthrough in disguise. You thought this heartbreak was pulling you down. But what if it's pulling you up? What if this is your cave moment? The place where everything becomes silent, so you can finally hear the voice of your soul again. There's a reason Allah takes people out of your life before He blesses it. There's a reason why certain doors close before others open. Some people can only survive in your old chapter. They can't breathe in the light Allah is bringing next. And He knows that. So He separates you. He disconnects you. Not because He's angry with you, but because He wants to upgrade you without interference. Because if certain people stayed in your life, you would never grow. You'd stay emotionally dependent. You'd stay spiritually asleep. You'd keep waiting for comfort from someone who was never meant to carry your soul. So Allah, in His infinite mercy, takes them away. And then He places you in silence, in solitude, not to punish you, but to show you the parts of yourself that you forgot existed. Because the you that's rising right now, this version of you needed to be alone to hear Allah clearly again. You needed to cry without being told to move on. You needed space to fall into sujood without rushing. You needed nights where the only reply you got was peace from Allah in your chest. And though it hurts, this separation is part of His process, His divine design. Because before the seed becomes a tree, it disappears into the darkness of the soil. No one sees it. No one applauds it. But that's where the real growth happens. And that's you, right now, buried in silence, but growing in strength. No one sees it, but Allah does. You thought you were losing love, but you're gaining purpose. You thought you were being rejected, but you're being refined. Even gold must be melted before it shines. Even mountains are shaped by pressure. Even oceans are made from millions of tears. So if you're crying right now, don't think it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're being reshaped. Let the pain carve away what no longer belongs to you. Let the silence teach you what noise tried to hide. There's beauty in being alone with Allah, because it's in that sacred solitude that He writes the next version of your life. And the next version of you isn't someone who chases people. It's someone who walks with peace. Someone who knows they are never truly alone. Someone who feels full, even in an empty room. So when the world asks you, where did you go? Tell them, I went where Allah sent me, into the quiet, to rebuild in peace, to rise without needing to be seen. One day, when you rise from the silent season, you won't even want to return to what you were begging for before. Because your soul will taste something better, something no human could give you. It will taste the nearness of your Rabb, the one who watched you cry and still believed in your eyes. The one who removed people from your path just to make space for His love to enter completely. You didn't lose your way. You're in the sacred space before the light comes. You're in your Hira. And when it's time, your story will begin again. Stronger, quieter, closer to Allah. Not everyone will understand your silence. But that's okay. Because this part was never meant to be understood by the world. It was written for you and Allah alone. You thought it was love. You really did. The way they smiled at you, the way they said your name, the way you started building your future around them. You thought, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. And you gave so much of your heart, so much of your time, so much of yourself, hoping that what you were building was real. But sometimes, what feels like love is really just a mirror, a reflection of what your soul needs to see, a reflection of where your wounds still live, a reflection of what your heart still believes it needs to feel whole. And Allah, in His infinite mercy, let it happen. Not because He wanted to break you, but because He wanted to show you the parts of yourself you've been ignoring. Show you the attachments that were growing too deeply. Show you how easy it is to call something love, even when it was just loneliness dressed in attention. So He sent a brass, and He wrapped that in a human, a voice, a touch, a promise. And for a while, you believed it. You believed that this person was the answer to your dua, that finally you had been seen, that finally someone was choosing you. But slowly, things started changing. Their tone, their presence, their heart. And instead of growing closer, you started growing confused. You started doubting yourself. You started blaming your worth for their withdrawal. But you see, it wasn't love. It was a test, a gentle wake-up call, a divine lesson wrapped in emotion. And the lesson was never to punish you. It was to return you to the one who sees you even when you're ignored, to the one who hears your heartbreak even when no one checks in, to the one who knows how many tears you hide behind that fake smile. Because you were never meant to find your home in people. You were meant to find it in Allah. And sometimes it takes losing what you thought was love to finally recognize what love actually is. Love is not begging to be chosen. Love is not sacrificing your deen to stay relevant in someone's life. Love is not losing yourself just to keep someone from leaving. Real love starts with peace. And peace starts with Allah. So if you've been crying, if you've been feeling like you lost everything when they walked away, know this: you didn't lose love. You lost a distraction. You didn't lose a blessing. You lost a test that Allah sent not to break you, but to build you, because He saw what you couldn't. He saw how much you were bending yourself to fit someone else's idea of love. He saw how much you were compromising your own voice just to avoid their silence. He saw how your heart was making room for someone by removing room for him. And so he stepped in, not to embarrass you, not to shame you, but to rescue you. He pulled you out of something your soul was too tired to leave. He let the promises break so your spirit could finally heal. He let their absence teach you what their presence was never able to. You thought you needed them, but what you really needed was the version of you that existed before them. The one who remembered Allah often, the one who smiled for no reason, the one who didn't wait for a message to feel valuable, the one who woke up at Fajr feeling whole even when alone. That version of you is still alive, still inside. And maybe this was just the key to unlock it again. So stop saying, I lost everything, because you didn't. You gained clarity. You gained distance from what was draining your soul. You gained proof that not everything that feels like love is meant to last. And that's okay, because not all blessings come to stay. Some come to teach. Some come to heal old wounds you didn't know were still bleeding. Some come to remind you that Allah will always remove what distracts, even if it looks like love on the outside. And I know you're still hurting. You still remember their words. You still replay moments that were never real in the way you imagined. But now, you also remember your worth. Now, you wake up with quieter pain, but stronger faith. Now, you know that anything that makes you forget Allah can never truly be called love. Love is what pulls you closer to Jannah. Not what pulls you into confusion. Not what pulls you away from your prayers. Not what causes your heart to beg for validation. So maybe what ended was never love at all. Maybe it was just a from above. A that taught you how to return, how to rise again, how to find beauty in your own company. You'll love again. Yes, you will. But next time, inshallah, it will be different. Because now you know what to look for. Not a perfect person, but a peaceful soul. Not someone who promises forever, but someone who helps you seek the one who already owns it. Until then, cherish this summer heart, even if it hurts, even if it still makes you cry at night. Because sometimes what you thought was love was simply Allah teaching you how to never lose yourself again. Your heartbreak didn't delay you, it delivered you. You feel behind now, don't you? Like you've lost your chance. Like everyone else is moving forward, and you're stuck in the same place grieving a love that never lasted. You keep asking yourself, why now? Why me? Why did Allah let it end? Right when I needed it to stay. It feels like you're starting all over again. Like everything you invested, your time, your love, your energy was wasted. You watch people around you smiling in relationships, getting engaged, building futures, while you're just trying to make it through one more night without crying yourself to sleep. You feel late. You feel left out. You feel forgotten. But what if I told you this heartbreak didn't delay your story? What if I told you it delivered you? What if the very thing you thought ruined your timeline was the very thing that saved your soul? You see, we measure progress by what we can see, by who stayed, by who loved us back, by how far we think we should be by now. But Allah, He measures growth by who we're becoming when no one is watching. He sees progress in the quiet sacrifices, in the painful sujood, in the moments you chose Him instead of going back to what hurt you. So no, you're not late. You're right on time. Because this heartbreak, this moment of loneliness, this silence you're walking through, it's not a punishment. It's a redirection, a divine course correction. It's Allah closing a door that was blocking the path He wrote for you long before you even met that person. You keep thinking, if only they had stayed, I'd be further along by now. But maybe if they had stayed, you wouldn't even recognize yourself anymore. Maybe you would have lost your prayers. Maybe you would have drowned in emotional dependency. Maybe your self-worth would have been so tied to them, you'd forget how to stand when they fell. So Allah, in His perfect timing, let it fall apart. Not to hurt you, but to wake you up. You were never meant to build your identity around someone who couldn't carry your soul. And sometimes Allah has to take us through pain to remind us of the purpose we've been ignoring. This wasn't wasted time. This was sacred transformation. You've changed, haven't you? You don't even think the same way anymore. You've stopped needing the same attention. You've begun asking deeper questions. Your tears don't feel like weakness anymore. They feel like a conversation with your Rabb. And that is not a delay. That is your delivery. You were delivered from false promises, delivered from being emotionally imprisoned, delivered from living beneath your value just to be tolerated by someone Allah never wrote for you. And yes, it still hurts. Yes, you still think about the memories. You still wonder if they think of you. You still catch your breath when their name flashes in your mind. But even in that pain, you've become more real, more honest, more sincere in your relationship with Allah. Because now you know that peace doesn't come from people. It comes from prostration, from knowing that no matter how many doors close, the door to your Lord never does. This heartbreak didn't ruin your life. It revealed it. It didn't set you back. It brought you back to the one who never left. Do you remember that night, the one where you cried until your chest hurt? And you said, Ya Allah, I don't know what to do anymore. That wasn't weakness. That was the moment you were delivered. That was when Allah heard you clearly and started removing what you were too afraid to let go of. He saw your heart cracking, and instead of patching it with what was harming you, He began rebuilding it with something that could finally hold peace. You may not see the full wisdom now, but one day you'll look back and realize that this heartbreak was not a setback. It was the bridge, the very thing that carried you from the life you thought you wanted to the life that was always meant for you. A life with more sukoon, more clarity, more worship that comes from a place of wholeness, not neediness. A life where you no longer fear losing people because your heart is finally resting with the one who can't be lost. You haven't fallen behind. You've just been refined. You haven't missed your future. You've just been prepared for it properly. And when that future finally arrives in the way Allah always meant it to, you'll smile, you'll cry, and you'll say, Ya Allah, I see it now. Every moment you delayed was you delivering me to something better. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not cursed. You are being carried quietly, gently, through a pain that has a purpose.